Okay, hello everyone. This is Sharonda, and this is my podcast as well as my uh, uh, YouTube channel. I'm sorry. Today is Monday, which is January the 16th. And in this podcast, as well as this YouTube channel, I go over topics in regards to the paranormal, occult, and supernatural. So I speak on things such as huntings, curses, soul travel, near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences. I go over topics and also in regards to uh, practices, religious, pagan belief systems and practices, such as Scientology, numerology, astrology, hoodoo, voodoo, black and white magic, Wiccan, Santeria, Satanism, atheism. And so I am going to speak on a topic today that I did before. I think this will be the second recording in regards to residual energies, because I was going to record on something else and somehow I got sidetracked and I forgot what exactly I was going to record on. But I'm going to speak on residual energy, and that prompted me in doing my tarot card reading to speak about residual energies. I mentioned about me feeling uneasy about something and had to leave from work. And in the midst of coming home, I can see the energies of taunted spirits behind my home. And there was no one that stayed behind the home because it was by a ravine where a lot of bushes and things of that sort. But the bushes behind my home kept moving about, and I could just hear like taunting, poking tauntiness of energies. That's the only way I can explain it. And I wasn't afraid because, as I mentioned before, I've had things to happen such as this over the course of my life. So, I began to realize that oftentimes when you got mischievous spirits such as this, when they are afraid, typically this is how they act when they're afraid. And because you don't act as such as they do, then they begin to act irrational, unnatural, supernatural. And God had to show me this is how I convey their energy into your space to give you understanding about them. So, in essence, we're going to proceed with residual energy. Now, I am on two websites, and it gives the medium's own personal account about residual energies and things of that sort. I'm gonna try not to read everything verbatim because this is their account, and then I'm gonna give a little bit more clarity as to what happened to me in regards to open visions and dreams and things of that sort. So before I proceed, I'm going to speak about a book for those who are out there to kind of give you some insight as to how you will begin to have the sight to see. The book is called The Seer. It's a good read for those who are out there who may need some terminology or some understanding about how God can atone your spiritual sight to give you insight prior to, so you will already know what demon presents to you, because we are in a spiritual battle more so than people would know, and demonic spirits are real, and oftentimes the energies will circumvent in your space. That is not bull crap. That is the truth. So we're going to begin. So have you ever heard of the expression residual energies? You oftentimes will hear this being spoken by people who are what, empath. I consider myself to be empath, psychic mediums, and oftentimes describing the energy remnants left behind in objects, places, buildings by people who have gone before. So it could work on a smaller scale, it could work on a bigger scale. Oftentimes, you know, as I mentioned before, when it mentions about Native Americans. Native Americans are what, the people that was what, first to these lands. So it works on a smaller scale as well. You would know, you begin to feel the energies of someone that was there prior to. And this is how God will use one thing to title onto something else. Okay. So oftentimes, once God has given you that spiritual eye to see, oftentimes you will begin to see that certain spirits that presents to you are picking up on energies of some time ago. And that's why we would want to know the history of a land, a building, a place, or what have you, to gain insight as to what presents to me, because I begin to see what in a spiritual sense of it all. So energies, we are all energy. Everything is energy. Source of God is energy. Angels and other energies of people, even emotions are energies. Buildings, cars, homes, places, and objects hold residual energy. So, oftentimes you will begin to take on these impressions. And when it all comes into focus for you, it could be very, very troubling. So you have to be able to diffuse certain energies as such. I'm not going to go into all of what this person has here, because a lot of it is more or less, to this person's own account. But I think we all have experienced residual energies at one form and fashion of the nets. I think some people are more or less gifted in picking up on certain energies, and God has given you the insight and the know-how as to what exactly the information that is being presented to you and what does that mean. So again, it says residual energy is emotional energy that has been imprinted from a person, living, or crossed over into clothes, furniture, objects, and places. Residual energy is often most potent when the person who left the imprinted energy experienced some strong emotions or was around the object and place regularly. This is why homes will often have such a strong feeling, especially for empaths, because our living spaces collect and hold onto so much energy. Jewelry, keys, wallets, and glasses are everyday items that can collect a lot of residual energy. Any place or object that a person frequently visits or uses is subject to collecting residual energy. Crystals are also a prime target for residual energy to hang out, as they're so great at storing information, especially in the quartz family. So as I mentioned before, I have some clear quartz as well as some rose quartz. So when you're empathetic, a lot of this makes sense to you. When you're an empath, it makes a lot of sense to you in terms of energies and strong emotions and things of that sort. You just have to go through what that is to understand. So you will hear the term about spirits. I oftentimes use this term in regards to spirits. Spirits of loved ones who have passed on, ancestors before your time, angelic beings, animal spirits, guides, elemental spirits, or even malevolent spirits. A spirit could be a entity that was once human, loved one passed on, or an ancestor, or a being that was never in human form, such as angels, animal spirits, and guides. For the purposes of this article, she says she's referring to these as spirits. So again, there is a difference between residual energies and spirits. What is that difference? Well, residual energy doesn't decide to be to let itself be known and try to contact you. It's just where it is. Versus a spirit infiltrates in our space and want it to be known. I think residual energy is kind of like what I mentioned about branded in time, where you could just walk into, it's just like you walk into a time zone, and then you'll begin to see how spirits within that branded piece of land or space happen as such. And so, what do I mean when I say the culture in it all? Well, this is the norm in certain things. So you begin to see what it mentions about culture shock and things of that sort. You know, when a person is used to something apart from what is deemed to be cultural or right. So when you begin to go to a different time and space, and it's like, oh my God, are you serious? This been happening this whole time. And and I think it's a humbling, a very, very deep yearning and a humbling experience for a lot of individuals who are what? Who are spoiled and privileged as such. So it says residual energy versus spirits. Well, residual energies has imprinted emotional energies. It's not conscious, resides in items and spaces that have been well used by a person, can be cleared with standard cleansing tools. Versus a spirit, which are guides, ancestors, and angels. It is conscious, can reside in items and places, but are free to change locations, communicate with before taking action or attempting to cleanse away. So residual energy will cause you to notice emotions when you pick up an item or walk into a space. If you ask the thing or space a question, you usually won't get an answer, or the answer will not be directed at you. The sensations you experience with the object or space usually lessen over time. Though you may experience images and sounds connected to an object or space, they're not directed at you, they're just there. There are usually easier to cleanse away if desired, or you can simply distance yourself from the object to place. Residual energy can be composed of both positive or negative emotions. So, as I mentioned before, you'll begin to see in a sensibility that is apart from your own, and God will put you in sue to where you're able to pick up on a lot of that. It's kind of like I said, walking into a time zone. I've had this to happen to me time and time again, and over the course of my life, particularly working in healthcare, where coming from a town such as where I come from is not really a small town, but then going into other people's worlds and seeing how they do things as such, and you begin to see, okay, this is something is creepy about this situation. I don't know what to call this. And I find myself being in situations such as this on a repetitive basis. So we have spirits usually have a purpose or a goal in making themselves known to you. As I mentioned before, it's some purpose in it. Things may be fuzzy to where you can't find that out right away, but somehow it is a purpose, despite of. Will continue to let themselves be known to you, even if you move locations. Will be more forceful in letting themselves be known to you, maybe contacting you to help you request help, or could have malevolent intention. You would need to determine this by communicating with the spirit. Similar to residual energy, spirits can inhabit objects, people, and places. Use the above points to discern, though typically Typical energy cleanses methods, herb clearing or cleansing, may work if desired. A spirit may require more in-depth techniques to communicate with or remove them. Um, so why does it matter, it mentions, and how to work with these energies? So if you identify yourself as an empath, it's essential to understand outside energies affecting you. So, it would be important to realize how we are all connected, whether it be favorable or unfavorable. So you can pull off of that energy. If you inadvertently surround yourself with objects with strong residual energy, it may be difficult to discern between your emotions and the emotions of the residual energies. Understanding when residual energy is present can cue you to take the necessary steps to either remove the object or energetically cleanse the object or space. So as I mentioned before, it comes here where it mentions about residual energies from object places in your aura. I kid you not. When you begin to see auras around people, it's spooky. Like you would know. I give you an example. I had this to happen with a family member. I'm not going to say which family member it was, but when this family member went to say something to me, and it was just like everybody cleared from away from this person, and it was like I was tunnel vision to this person, and the dimness behind her let me know that no one pays attention to this particular family member. And it concerned me ultimately. And so you will begin to get an inclination when people are not paying attention, they're not aware. It says there are some instances where you might like to keep residual energy. If you have a cherished object from a loved one that has their residual energy on it, you may very well want to keep it, and that's totally fine. It's equally important to be aware of a spirit occupying your energetic field. Now, how you approach and handle connecting with a spirit is much more in depth than what is covered here. But spirits and energies are real. Ultimately, you can hone your intuitive abilities by working with your third eye chakra. Use tools to communicate with spirits such as pendulums, oracle or tarot cards, and even meditation. You have to be straightforward and ask the spirit for clear communication. If you think you're being contacted by either spirit, don't hesitate to reach out to someone with more experience in this realm to help. So, as spiritual beings in physical form, we must understand both physical and extrasensory information. This may seem like a small shift in understanding, but is a powerful one. So, as I mentioned before, on your conquest to honing your spiritual capability and understanding, you will begin to see how a lot of this, how energy takes place and how residual energy takes place as such. So I had an open vision that happened some time ago where I had a open vision, and I had no control over it. I honestly began to realize or began to feel as though that someone was taunting me is what I felt. And I couldn't give no explanation as to um the reasoning for it as such. And so I just began to say, okay, uh it's fine, you know. But I remember telling this to a coworker, and I'm gonna briefly go ahead and close out because I'm approaching that 20 minutes, and I don't want this to go no farther than maybe 30 minutes podcast for today. but I was laying in bed and something woke me up. And as I woke up, I can't remember everything in this open vision, but what I do remember is I looked up and I seen this figure of this guy, and that I had, was a friend. Well, was a, just a kind of like a social talk person that I would talk to, and it's like he came to me and he says, an Indian visited him, is what he mentions to me, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, what is this all about? And as he said that, then I began to feel like arms coming around me, like some arms, like black spiritual arms came and engulfed me around my body like I'm in a sleeping bag. And as I'm sitting there, it said, oh, and it was just like a vibrational energies of my soul and my spirit. And don't get me wrong, I was afraid, but I wasn't like frightened. You know how you could be like afraid, but is not to the point where it will cause you to get afraid to where you will feel like something, like you have a heart attack or something like that. So I'm like, it startled me. I just put it that way. And it was just engulfing me and I couldn't move. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? I couldn't move. And as I'm sitting there, I began to see these different flashes of light. And it started off in where I would see like a cross. It was a light that shined on the walls like a cross. Then I go and I look up and I'm turning around, I'm looking, I'm saying to myself, how can that be projected out? Because there's no way that could be projected on this wall because the curtains was blacked out. So how could that be projected out on the wall? So I'm thinking to myself, okay, maybe there's some type of illusion within the wall as to what this is. But as I'm sitting there, I just keep hearing this, and I'm startled, but I'm not really afraid. I didn't become afraid until I couldn't move because this band of dark energies that was surrounding me and wrapping me and holding me and trying to keep me from leaving. And at this time, it really made me very, very paranoid to where I can breathe. And I'm like, okay, I'm having a panic attack. And so I'm sitting here laying in the bed, and I became afraid, like deathly afraid, when I began to sink, and it felt as though I was being pulled, like my soul was being pulled down, or what have you, by these negative dark energies that was holding me, encasing me like I was in a sleeping bag. And I'm like, oh my God, is this what death feels like? And as I'm sitting there, all of a sudden I start to hear, and I know this is crazy, like in this field here, a visual field, I'm seeing in my mind's eye, or what have it, because it was like I was seeing in my mind's eye, and then I'm seeing something on the wall in the physical eye all at the same time. And then as this is happening, all of a sudden I'm here, do, which is like Prince. We know the song of Prince, Kiss. So I'm like, why am I listening to this? And it showed me like a hand moving, like one of those older boxes or whatever, those old timing boxes. And it showed me different musics. It didn't have country music, oddly enough, but it was a station that just kept going back and forth through all the different musics and things of that sort. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what is this all about? I don't care anything about this. Then I seen like a purple somehow. I never seen Prince. It was a sensation of Prince, but I'm not gonna sit here and say Prince came to me, but something was significant about that. So I'm saying to myself, okay, what is the big deal with this? And then as I'm sitting here, it started to change into different colors. And so now I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, now what is this all about? And so from it going from a cross, it disappeared for a minute. And I'm still sitting here afraid because I can't move and I'm being pulled down And I'm thinking, okay, this is the end. Something has been to kill me. Something is trying to kill me. Something wants me away from my space. Something wants me away from here. And the whole time it reappeared. So I'm like, okay, what is going on? And then that's when um the cross then becomes an upside down cross. And I'm just sitting up there still hearing this gone, and I'm being shaken and pulled down and stuff. And I'm trying to formulate because I've been told when things like this happen, you call upon Jesus, you call upon God, to protect you and guide you so it go away. But I couldn't even formulate the words to even speak it, to even say anything. And at this point in time, I'm becoming anxious and gravely afraid because I'm thinking to myself, okay, this must be what death feels like. This must be what it feels like when a person is about to make that transition over and death is soon to ensue. This is basically what this feels like. So it was very, very troubling. It seemed like it went on forever, but it couldn't last no more than about 5 minutes at the most. And so I'm saying this to say, open visions are real, residual energies are real. I don't have no need to lie about stuff like this. Um, oftentimes people would say, being logically based science, scientific free thinkers, you are discouraged against things such as this, and you put it on medical or mental or something. You want to put it on something, but it is real. That spiritual world is real. So of course we want to put it on something to put it at bay because we don't want people to come around, saying that they're seeing data lines walking around or unicorns dancing and things of that sort. That's foolishness. Okay. So I am going to conclude this episode on residual energy. What is residual energy and does it exist? And are you going mad and things of that sort? We all will get to that point in time where we will feel that way. And God does have a way of reaching us apart from. Okay. So if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you're more than welcome to comment below. Until then, have a safe and wonderful day. Good day.